Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz composer, arranger, and pianist Miho Hazama. Originally from Tokyo, Japan, she actually just got back from a trip to Japan and came back to her home, which is New York City now. In 2015, she released her album Time River, and things are always busy in her world. Since she was younger, she has loved jazz and learned from the best, like jazz composition from the great Jim McNeely. Since her debut album Journey to Journey with her 13-piece chamber orchestra in 2012, she has been well on her way to a memorable career. So please get to know Miho and dig this interview, my friends.
Thank you for taking some time out today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and hop in right now and just ask you just kind of an overview of what's going on with activity with you lately, with playing and music.
I actually just came back from Tokyo after a month, and I had a TV shooting, like a magazine interviews, radio shows, and then so many activities, concerts as well. So now I'm back here in New York City and ready to write commissions and orchestrations, arrangements.
You know, the thing that always fascinates me about Japan is the level of jazz worship that goes on over there. Is it just a pleasure every time to play for the Japanese crowd?
Yeah, well, Japanese jazz musicians, first of all, they're really good. They're really serious about music, and then they're really into music. So I love working with Japanese people. But the thing is that the position of jazz composition, that's not popular at all in Japan.
Gotcha.
And as a jazz composer, I like to spread the word jazz composition or jazz composer to, to be recognized. Like so many pianists, like so many instrumentalists can compose in Japan, so they do compositions as well. But I don't really play. I conduct my band, I compose, and I write arrangements. That's my job. And then people in Japan don't really know what jazz composition is, because people still believe that jazz is all about improvisation. Some people still do. So, that's why I still think that I do have a responsibility to be back in Japan, well, back and forth, to have a concert with my compositions and arrangements. And then people like it, so I'm happy to do that.
Wonderful. So talk to me a little bit about your childhood growing up in Tokyo and how you got so interested in not only music, but jazz.
My parents are not musicians, but music fans, a big music fans. So I grew up with a lot kind of music, such as jazz, classical, rock, R&B. I started studying electric organ, piano, and composition when I was around 5 years old at Yamaha Music School. And I just kept doing it because I really, really loved composing. And my major for my bachelor degree in Japan, that was in Tokyo, that was for classical composition. But I happened to be in college big band at that classical music college as after school activity. And I happened to started playing jazz piano. And then at the time, that big band played a lot of pieces by Maria Schneider, Vince Mendoza, Jim McNeely, Bob Frolens, Bob Brookmeyer, these guys. And then I got into, these composers. And I found out that they are still alive. So I just wanted to meet them. And then I decided to study abroad to meet them. So I took all the auditions that Maria Schneider, Jim McNeely, Vince Mendoza teach, and I got Manhattan School of Music to study with Jim McNeely for 2 years for my master's degree. So
right on.
Yeah, that's where I am right now.
That's huge. Yeah. Well, let me stay in your childhood here, and I want to know, were there any specific jazz albums that you listened to that really moved you?
Yeah, well, just one piece. Is it right? The Battle of Jericho? Yeah. So that's played by a guitarist and Herbie Hancock. I know that Herbie was on the piano. Well, that that specific piece was my favorite one in elementary school, like 5 years old or 6 years old, and I copied everything, even like every improvisation notes, and then I kept singing it. So that's, I guess, my first favorite piece. Here we go. Grant Green.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's wonderful. Well,
so that's Grant Green's album called Feeling Desperate. And Herbie's on the piano. And, that was my first favorite piece from that album called Joshua Fit de Battle of Jericho. That's it.
Right on. So, you've been interested in music for a long time, especially when you were growing up. Was music always something that you wanted to pursue as a career, or did you have other dreams?
I started actually going to dance school, like a classical ballet, contemporary ballet school, as well as music school when I was 5 years old. And I kept doing it, and I still love watching dance or like a ballet, but I don't do it anymore. So I guess music has been the core of my life for a while.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, and then you've gone to school. Obviously, you talked about your master's degree and your undergrad in classical. What did you learn? What did you learn in a formal college environment about music that's really helped you to this day?
Well, for me, the bachelor degree was all about the basic knowledge about music, and especially since I was studying classical composition in that former college. And then I feel like I learned so much about orchestration, like basic knowledge about orchestration, and also harmony, theory, counterpoint, these kind of things. But on the other hand, at MSM, at Manhattan School of Music, since I was studying with my favorite composer, and he's a great educator, but he is also great, like a legendary jazz composer himself. So following his activities, what he does, it was a great lesson as well.
Well,
so now,
let me. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
No. I was just going to kind of jump a little bit to 2007 when you were with Yoshiki, and what kind of experience was that? That had to be a big moment for you.
Okay. So I was at the time just junior at the college studying classical composition. But that free jazz pianist, Yosuke Yamashita, he was about to compose a brand new piano concerto, and he was looking for an orchestrator. And he found out me from the college, and he called me all of a sudden. And I was really freaked out. At the first meeting that I had with him was like very interesting. He showed me a video of him playing with Cecil Taylor, the free jazz pianist. And he asked me how I would do an orchestration for that music. And I can't remember what exactly I answered him. But he recalled that he really liked my answer, and then he decided to hire me to orchestrate that concerto. That changed that was a start of my career as a composer or arranger, writer. Yeah, so that's how I started writing music as a professional. Yeah, that's cool.
So let me kind of get into the part of your life where you moved from Tokyo to New York City. What kind of culture shock, what kind of migration, how did that work on you? How did that move feel?
Well, fortunately, I didn't have any culture shock because Tokyo and New York City was really, really close to me. And since everything was different, language is, first of all, very different, and I couldn't really speak English at the time. So that was one of the struggles. The attitude of students at MSM were really, really positive, and they are really into classes, which didn't really happen to college in Japan. So, that was I was crazy trying to follow up all the classes and all the English classes as well. So that's basically what happened for the first 6 months since I came to New York City. But musically, I still love living in New York City because this is the best reason that as a young jazz artist, you can get everything here. Like, you can get all the legendary artist performances as well as really young musicians, experimental things, challenging things. And then you can get to see it, you can get to hear it, and then you can get the sense of it. And as a creator, I think that's the best stimulus to get to live here. So that's been one of the best things to live in New York City. And then I think that's kind of different from Tokyo.
Yeah, without a doubt. So yeah. So you obviously, we've talked about your life as a composer, your debut album, Journey to Journey, with your 13-piece ensemble. It received Album of the Year from Jazz Japan magazine. How did that feel to get that kind of honor?
At the time, I was not really sure if I was doing all right because I graduated from MSM, and at that time was my first time being completely a professional musician. In other words, like, I've been always a student somehow. But that was my first year to be a professional musician, a freelance musician as well. And there are so many things that made me struggle to do something in the city. That award encouraged me to keep doing something cool. So that helped me a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the first album with Herbie and Grant Green on it. So let me kind of elaborate a little bit. Who else in the world of jazz really influenced you, or you would consider your heroes?
Maria Snyder, Jim McNeely, Vince Mendoza, Duke Singh. These composers are my heroes. And I think I got a lot of influence from Herbie as well, Herbie Hancock.
And let me ask you this.
Also, one more.
Okay.
Michael Becker, yeah.
Yeah. So if we could pare this list down a little bit, if you could go back in time and see any of these people live, or I guess I should ask, have you seen Herbie live? Who would you want to see live?
Well, I have to say Michael Becker because I have never seen him live. I mean, although he was alive when I was born, but I didn't get a chance to see him live. So I really would like to see him. I also would like to see Bill Evans.
Right on. Let me ask you this: is there anything that's new on the horizon for you that's coming up?
Since I just released my second album last year, and then I don't really have a plan for my next album, but
okay.
I'd love to do it eventually. And then now I'm working on revising my chamber orchestra pieces to a big band setting, so that I'm hoping that college big bands could play my pieces from my albums. And I'm also working on a lot of commission works as well. So hopefully I can get to release these recordings as well as the score parts.
Let me ask you this. Why do you love jazz?
That's a good question. Well, to me, genre is not important. Music is all about my favorite thing. And then, I think it applies to everything in my life, but it depends on whether I like it or not like it. Jazz music has been always my favorite music. And then I have to be honest that I have some jazz music that I do not like. But I like most of it. Yeah, and then what I want to do is to use jazz theory and jazz instrumentation sometimes, but not to create jazz music all the time, because I really like being a crossover, like no border, no genre to create something cool. So I know that my music sounds like a jazz or classical or something like that, but I don't really categorize myself to be in jazz necessarily. And I'd like to keep something really good or interesting or cool happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Of all the live performances you put on, what has been one of the nicest things a fan has ever said to you after a performance?
Okay. I think a lot of people have said that my music is very challenging, but it doesn't sound like difficult. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's entertaining in a way, or like I hear a melody or I hear a drama, and then that makes me happy. That comment makes me happy.
Right on. So this is my final question. I want to kind of get to the essence of who you are. Everybody has a perception of who you are. Your family does, your friends do, those that you perform for. But when you wake up in the morning and face the world, who do you think you are?
I'm a composer who writes compositions and arrangements that are influenced by jazz and classical. And I'd like to keep composing something for large ensembles such as big band, symphony orchestras, jazz philharmonic orchestras, to spread the essence or like sense of jazz to non-jazz people as well, as jazz fans.
Perfect. I love that answer. That's perfect. Miho, thank you for taking some time out for me today, opening up, and certainly thanks for all the music.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the show.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Japan, New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Miho for her time, her stories, and all of that great music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit the neonjazz.blogspot.com for all things Neon Jazz. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.